Hello guys, welcome back to our City Skylines region of Coniferia. In the past couple of episodes we've been working on some more rural countryside stuff. We've been building some suburbs, some small towns, and some farming industry. And in today's episode I'm happy to announce that we're back in the regional capital of Port Douglas. So we're back in the true big city vibes again. Should be really interesting. I'm planning a pretty big expansion in this episode, as well as some nice expansions of the tram network here in the city. Now, before we get to that though, I want to thank you guys so much for all the nice comments and feedback on the most recent episode. I guess funny part of that is that about half the comments, probably less, but I'm exaggerating here, noted that the train line that I established from Tagfield to Danton and Port Douglas didn't actually have a stop in both directions at the station, but only at one. So I've been fixing that so that you can actually grab a train from Danton and go into Pine Harbor. And yeah, we're actually seeing quite a bit of activity here, so maybe I need to just turn down the amount of trains that we're seeing here just a bit. But yeah, of course, thank you guys for pointing that out. That was a bit of a bummer, really. Now, I also asked for a suggestion for the name of this super wealthy mountain suburb we built in the most recent episode, as well as a bit of backstory if any of you had a good idea. And I want to once again thank you guys for the nice suggestions and the feedback. I think I'm gonna go with one by Kapilan Naidu, who suggested the name of Pinewood Hills. I really think that's got a good ring to it. Kapilan also wrote, Pinewood Hills could be a nice name for this district. The place was mainly occupied by old money folks that made their riches from the early maritime trades that took place along Pine Harbor. Eventually, younger, more affluent folks rushed to the area to build the modern homes of their dreams a little further away from the hustle and bustle of city life. And I think that backstory by Kapilan Naidu really ties well into the location of this suburb. It is really close to all the maritime activity that has defined the city of Pine Harbor for more than 200 years basically. So I guess it would make sense that some of the first people that got really wealthy off of that trade built some of these old historic mansions up here. And now, as Kapilan Naidu notes, we've got more younger, new money folks moving in, and they're kind of doing up with history and building these modernist mansions instead. So yeah, really nice and cool suggestion. Let's just get Chestnut Hill renamed. So we're gonna go with Pinewood Hills. Really cool. And like I said in the most recent episode where we built Pinewood Hills, I'm gonna, of course, keep expanding this area and gonna be experimenting a little bit more with the different building styles and how to construct these kind of unique, very desirable suburbs where you have individual driveways for each house and such. So that should be fun. And I've got one more thing before I move on with the episode. As you guys can see on your screen right now, I'm having some texture issues at the nodes of these tram roads I'm using. So each time I boot up my save, I have to just go through with node controller and click, and that will fix it. The reason I'm asking you guys for help is that I'm pretty certain that wasn't the case for the first many saves after I implemented the tram network. It's kind of a new thing. So yeah, if any of you modding experts out there know what might be causing this or how I can fix it, then please let me know. Thank you. Now, as I mentioned, we're back in Port Douglas, and that's what we're going to be focusing on in this episode. So if we zoom out, I'm hoping to develop a large chunk of the area you can see here on the screen. And we're going to go with, a more unique style of development here. Some of you have suggested that this be like a row house district, and it ties perfectly into my initial plans for it. My idea is that, as we've already kind of established with all the suggestion and feedback from you guys, one of the reasons that settlers actually choose to settle here on the Grand Isle even though it's not the easiest place to build a city, is that the island has a great natural harbor, which allowed for rapid construction of docks and ports and maritime industry. So I'm gonna build a huge industrial port here in Port Douglas, and I'm thinking that the bulk of the heavy industry part of it is gonna be up here in this region near the bridges. And this area here kind of spawned as a neighborhood for the working class. So many of the dock workers had their daily lives here, old pubs and many row houses. So that's gonna be the theme that we're gonna try and achieve, but we'll have to build it around some interesting infrastructure as well, because I asked you guys what you felt about making this bridge a tram bridge and then extending the tram network down here to this segment of the city. And you guys were all for it. So we're gonna be doing that in this episode as well as implementing some reverse trams. Yeah, I've added the reverse trams AI mod, and we're gonna try and see if we can get these trams to reverse properly, because currently we also have, I've made a big blunder here. As you guys know, when trams actually go through this final station, they have to actually return to the depot and then spawn all anew before they can embark on another round trip. So that's, of course, that's a little awkward. So we're gonna make some reverse tram magic here, as well as down here in the other end of Pine Harbor. Should be interesting. And yeah, then like I said, we're gonna draw the tram network down here and try and create this new district with a row house feel. So first up is trying to use some reverse tram logic, and I think I've got the networks that I need, and I'm pretty much exclusively using Tram Networks by Clues because I feel they just make the nicest one. I think, is it RV? Yes, if we say RV, that will show us the reverse tram networks that we can actually use. So we're just gonna, I've never built anything like this before, so we're just gonna try it. I think I'm gonna move this node a bit to make this segment a little longer, and then this is a reverse stop segment. So if we update it like this, then we've got these pieces as well to kind of tie it all in. What if I right click? This looks more right. There you go. That looks all right. It's a little abrupt, this stop, but I think it looks all right. And the idea is then that the tram can actually stop here and then just reverse and continue. And I don't even know if I have to do more than this. So if I just, do I have to make a stop here? I probably do. So if I take this, okay. That works pretty well, I think. So let's just add a stop here for now. Yeah, I think that's gonna, I know there's a stop right here, but I mean, when this part of the city is developed, we'll have to expand the network anyways. As we've kind of clarified earlier, we want Port Douglas to have a really substantial tram network. The city had old streetcars and streetcar suburbs, and for once we have a city that didn't get rid of that. Even with the advent of the automotive revolution and all the highways that got built just after the Second World War, the city never really gave up on the streetcars because they knew that such a dense city needed good public transportation. So that's why we've got, or we are planning at least, a really extensive tram network throughout Port Douglas. But anyways, this is pretty cool. I guess this works for now. One thing I would like to change is I don't think this connection here makes any sense. So we're just gonna fix that up like so. Cool. Let's go to the other end of Port Douglas and see if we can implement the same down here. We've got this loop that we're currently using. A couple of you pointed out that the loop could have been to the other side to remove the need for this junction here, or this crossing rather. But I think that with the reverse tram AI we can probably do something much smarter. But we'll just have to try and see how it looks. This, I'm really not a huge fan of this, while this is okay, I guess. Let's see if we can just move this node ever so slightly. And we'll just take this stop, and if we add it here, perfect. Then that should allow us to just delete this segment entirely. And this is looking real funky. Is that because this is a massive node by now? It is. And now this is a huge segment, so we'll just add a node here. And I think this is good enough for now. Because we're not really actively working down here in this part of the city. I'll just see if I can. Man, I've got some real magic working here. It's because the node here is super funky. There you go. All right, this is fine for now, I feel. And we'll just make sure that it's still, yeah, it should be functioning just fine. Cool. So for now, we're gonna go with this because we're not really working down here, and as I said, when we get to developing this part, we're actually gonna continue the tram network along the coast, and I'm probably at some point gonna see if I can get a tram network running up the mountains in some way without it being too crazy looking. But I mean, it should be feasible. So before we develop the new area entirely, we're gonna continue with the actual expansion of the tram network. And I'm kind of thinking that we're gonna run it down here and then along this beach avenue out here, and then probably continue along the avenue here, so that it can also serve this large industrial port we'll have over here at some point. So let's start with that. Now we've got a ton of these tram networks to work with. So I think if we just say tram, we've got lots of possibilities here. And I don't want it to be too wide a network, because obviously, as you guys can see, this road isn't all that wide, and I kind of like that. So I'm thinking maybe we should just use the road we're using here. So this one, yeah, I think I'll grab this, and I'm gonna update. Not here. I'm gonna use a different type here, but I'm gonna upgrade all of this, and then I'm gonna, of course, have to just adjust it if it clips into some buildings. And then I know this road kind of doesn't really have much grass or planters or anything, but we can customize our way out of that. So that's what I'd like to do a little later when we get to the detailing part. Okay, so this is a start. Then we've got this stretch. And one thing I'd like to do is to actually connect across this like so. But I'm thinking it should probably be a tram only road, so no car traffic. Let's see what we can find. Yeah, this one is a better bit, but we don't need this. What is that? That looked kind of cool with the fencing. Okay, we'll just use that. And I kind of like this. It's a sort of a narrow, has a narrow footprint, this road, so it kind of fits with the one we had before. So I think I'm gonna go with this, and once again we can do our own planters as we see fit easily with the intersection marking tool, and you guys know I love to do those, so that shouldn't be a problem. Now I'd like to just expand on this ever so slightly so that there's a bit of a smoother curvature to this tram network. And I guess it's actually, if we just go to like 18 here, I think this should be fine for the type of trams that we are employing here in the city. Should be fine. And I'm just gonna check whether this is actually what we want. I think I like this because this was a 4-lane avenue before, although without parking, but I mean it kind of fits all right even with the added parking, even though it's a little wider. So I think we're just gonna grab these segments and we'll just move them down ever so. This did not work at all. We'll move them down ever so slightly. Something like this I think should be fine, yeah. And we'll do the same over here just to create a bit more space. And I think we will remove this segment entirely and remove this node. There you go. I like that a little better. Do we have these lines clipping into buildings? No, it does not seem like it. Cool. So I'm not really sure here if I want the tram to continue here along the beach, or if I should just continue here, which will be like the central road of this neighborhood. Maybe that is the best solution actually. So I think for starters I'm gonna do that, and we'll see what we can find interesting road types here. Look at this, guys. It actually has parking in Coniferia. Can you guys imagine how crazy that would be? I'm not parking. What am I talking about? Cycling. We have lots of parking. I'm of course talking about the cycling. Yeah, we can't have that, right? That's weird. But this road is kind of cool, and it should also allow for some nice planters that we can place. Guys, we're gonna do it. We are gonna have our very first cycling road here in Coniferia. Can you believe it? I mean, I can't. But yeah, on the right side here. Let's do this. This is revolutionary. And we went a little too far here maybe. Or maybe this is a perfect way of doing a loop, even though that might not be all that common. So I think for now we are gonna do a reverse tram segment right here. Yes. And this reverse tram segment is way too wide. So instead we're gonna take inspiration from our reverse segment over here, I think. Let's see, where are we? Here. That's more like it. And then we'll just need to somehow fit this into a more normal looking road. Yeah, that's a bit of a rough transition, but I'm not sure that we actually have anything more. Oops. What did I do? There you go. I don't think we have a better segment, unfortunately, for the reversal. Or rather to transition the reversal. So we will have to figure out something here. But I think it's feasible. Perhaps we can intersection marking tool our way out of this. If I add another node, we can figure out something here. Okay, so that is actually quite cool. I think this sort of establishes what we want right now. And yeah, we got our first bike lanes in the region. That is insane. And I guess it actually fits okay in with this area. Now I mentioned to you guys that it's gonna be a, working class area, but that's not quite true. It used to be working class, this entire area, but now especially this part of it has been really heavily gentrified. And today, if you want one of the row houses we're gonna build here, you'll have to sell your firstborn child, maybe your family dog, maybe a limb or two, and then maybe you can buy it, and you'll be heavily indebted for 30 years. So it's that type of working class neighborhood. It's for wealthy hipsters to take pride in the fact that they live in a used to be working class neighborhood that isn't anymore. And so I guess the bike paths kind of fit there. They would ride their fixie bikes, right? Okay guys, so I've got some bad news. Everything you've seen so far up until now in this episode has been lost. I recorded it yesterday, and when it turned to evening and I had to save, my game threw a bunch of errors when trying to save it, and it made a quick save, which judging by the timestamp should include all the things, all the Tram Network stuff we've built, but none of it was included. When I loaded the save, I was all over up here in tag field, and nothing had been done. So that's a real bummer. Lots of work lost. What I've done now off camera before recording this is I've tried to build everything that the reverse tram network thingy we built, but I've made a different type of stop down here because that seemed to cause a bit of an issue. So now I'm just hopeful that the trams, I've had to recreate the initial tram line also. So now I am hopeful that these trams can actually travel the full line and that I'll be able to save the game, because then we can move on. And luckily it seems like it's working. Alright, so what I'll do now is I'll need to redo this whole tram line again, unfortunately, and then I'll get back to you guys. Alright, I am back, and I think I've been able to recreate this just as we had it before. We are gonna detail this up so that we get lots more planters and trees and greenery. That should be fun and fairly easy. And I think this looks just like we did it before with these bike lanes here, the first of their kind here in Coniferia. And then I'm hopeful this reverse tram segment will work. It's a single reverse segment, so I think I'm actually just gonna try and establish a line now and see if it works, because it did bug out earlier. Good thing I have been able to save all this progress, and it seemed like the save went through really easily, so that's nice. What I'd like to do now to wrap up the initial part of the tram network of this episode is to create this nice tram bridge that we've been talking about. And this should be fairly interesting, I think. We're gonna choose a network that has actual bridge support, because I just feel that looks better. And an easy way to check that is that if we select our upgrade tool and mouse over here, if nothing changes, then bridge isn't supported. So for instance, if we check this road, we can see that it has an actual bridge network we can use. So now we just gotta figure out maybe if we can, this one is really not that wide. I would like maybe this one with a median in the center. Just gonna pause it here and try. And I quite like that actually. It's a little more bulky, but I think it's a really cool look. So we're just gonna move some trees a bit, and I think we're gonna go with this this tram bridge. And now I'm gonna use node controller here to see if we can just adjust this a bit to make the turn here a little more graceful. These are big tram cars, so I think they would definitely need to have a smoother curve here. I think we're just gonna do this for now. I think this is acceptable. We're gonna check the same here. We'll probably need to make this large as well to accommodate. I think something like this. And we're gonna make it flat instead of sloped, because some of the tram lines kind of disappear if we slope it too much. We have a bit of texture glitching here, but I think that's fine. Cool, that seems to be working. I think it's time now that we try and establish an additional tram line. This should be the fun part. But now comes it's also the tricky part, because where does it make sense to have the stops? Because you could have a line that is dedicated to this area and then doesn't really share a stop with this line here. But you could also have the line where it actually has a loop, even though that might not be all that common. I think we're gonna start with that just for the fun of it, and then I'm just gonna center the camera here and ask you guys if you have any ideas of how we can make a cool logical tram network with the tracks we have available now, because I'm not so sure what I'm creating is all that logical. Then you can snap a picture of this and make a suggestion, maybe draw up some stuff, and I'll make sure to check comments, help and review and approve them, because if you post links, YouTube will have me review them manually. But if you have any suggestions, if you know a thing or two about tram networks, let me know, because what I'm gonna create now is probably not the most logical network. But we definitely need a stop here. This is our reverse tram piece. So this is where the line ends. Cool. And then we can actually have a stop on the bridge. That would be nice, but probably not make all that much sense. I'm gonna add a stop here. Add a stop here. Now we're moving downtown. A stop here, and I think this segment is too small for a stop, but this one is probably long enough, and this segment is probably too small, and here we have a parking lot, so we got a bit of an awkward space here for a stop, I think. Maybe we should actually have a stop here. Okay, so we're gonna move the stop a bit forward. Then they're too close. We're gonna have a stop here, a stop here, and here, 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 and is that too many? I think maybe we need to actually have some reverse segment here. Or maybe even like a central tram station somewhere, or a central hub, basically, where all the trams kinda can enter. It could be in front of the train station or something like that. I think for now we're gonna try going with this setup. We'll add another stop here. Then we'll just make it follow this line. Yeah, we're gonna do that for now. I'm gonna add a stop here. Yeah, we're gonna do this for now, and then we can adjust it. I think right now I'm just eager to see if the trams will actually function correctly here. So for now it looks as if it will. because the line connected up just fine. But yeah, we'll definitely see. Gonna make this a red line, I think. We are not gonna name it right now, and we are gonna add 5 vehicles. Alright, exciting stuff. Let's see if this works. Ooh, they certainly look pretty cool in red. And this reverse stop is working perfectly. Now the trams don't have to enter the depot again to make another trip. And I think we're just gonna follow this and see if it works properly. It's of course gonna cross the bridge because that's the quickest way. Then we can also get a little look of this tram bridge. That is pretty darn cool. I really like that. And then we'll see if it works with this reverse station. Looks like it's working perfectly. That is fantastic. Hopefully I can just maybe adjust this one a bit so that we can actually see, or is that just a texture issue? Maybe a limitation of some sort that I can't actually see this line. That would be so annoying, please. I'll have to do something about that, but I guess that's not the highest priority. Yeah, it's a bit tricky to work with this. That's also what makes trams so much fun, of course, but yeah, rather complex things. And it seems like here I need to make this node bigger to allow for the station to be bigger. Otherwise we have this issue where the tram kind of stopped on the crosswalks. We don't want that. But this station right here is pretty much the perfect fit. While this station, on the other hand, is too small. But it's only too small because we have this weird junction here, which I guess we don't have to have right here, so we can actually drag this out a bit as well. And then it should continue as normal throughout the rest of this network without any issues. Alright, I think red line is working just perfect, even though it's a weird, not so pretty line. We got the tram line established now. All the detailing of the stations and such is gonna come a little later. I think now it's finally time we start placing down some buildings and start filling out some of this area. So in this area here, we're gonna have like a transitionary zone, because I'm not gonna start just putting down row houses right here. That's gonna start a little as we move a little further into this very special area. So here I'm gonna work on the transition from these pretty big buildings with quite a large footprint, and then until this into this row house district. Should be pretty interesting. And my approach is gonna be the same that I've used for much of this high density area, and that is to initially establish a maximum building height I want to work with, and then place some of the most prominent buildings throughout the area. They are kind of, the biggest buildings are those that, are gonna draw attention first, so I want to try and kind of get that placed first and then work my way down. So first I'm gonna establish a maximum height, and I'm just gonna kind of wing it and see what I would like to work with. And I think 45 is probably a good bet. I don't want to go much higher than that. So first up is just that, placing down the most prominent buildings, and then working my way down. Alright guys, I think it's time for a little recap of what we've been building so far. So this big lot here, I'm a bit unsure what to do with it because I was thinking of having a bus hub built here. So I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do with this yet. So yeah, I'll have to figure something out. I also kind of gave up on filling out this lot in the beginning of the development of this area. I'm gonna see if I can find something cool to put here. But otherwise, I've tried to achieve a real weird mix of heights and footprints of the buildings to kind of represent an area that, you know, as I said, it used to be mainly dominated by row houses for more than 100 years, but you know, more modern developments has kind of creeped in. So for instance, this building is obviously relatively modern. I used procedural objects to make it fit this corner lot, so I'm gonna have to add some block services to it now. And the good thing about using the block services is that it actually allows us to make it a mixed use building, which is, you know, normally not supported in city skylines. So I'm thinking that we've actually got a bit of everything here. We've got a bit of, you know, low density commercial down here. So I think I'm just gonna add one here. But we've also got, you know, a floor here, which I think makes sense to have dedicated as office space, you know, renting that out as office space. So we're also gonna add that here. And then instead of having this be office as well, which the original building is, it's a vanilla building, I think. I think it's we're gonna repurpose that. It's gonna be apartments instead. We need to boost the population, so we're gonna go with a level 3 high density, and we're also gonna add this here. So in this is the main entrance to the building, and that counts for both the commercial at the bottom here, the offices on the next floor, and then the residential at the top. And we're just gonna fix some of these to add a bit more workers. So I'm thinking maybe 25 office jobs on the first floor, and then we have at the bottom here probably have like 8 workers, and then I am pretty sure that the let's see if we can grab the residential one. There you go, 40 households, and I think that's probably pretty fitting, so that's okay. And yeah, that definitely made it multi-purpose. Let's take a little trip. So my idea with these towers in this area is that there actually used to be row houses here as well, but it was really not well maintained. And so during the 70s, it was demolished, and it made way for this public housing. That, of course, in return, in today, 2022, isn't really all that well maintained either. But yeah, 70s planning, you demolish some of the old historic stuff if it's not in good condition, and you build public housing. So that's what happened here, and it also happened here. And then, as you guys saw, I tried to add these really, really tiny roads here. They are, one direction, one lane, and they have parking. Because I think that would be realistic for a really old area of the city. And then I've just added, really a mix of row houses. So we've got some brick, some a little more fancy looking, these for instance. But we also got a few that are made with wood primarily. These, I think they're called Italianates, inspired by San Francisco as well. And I'm continuing the trend over here. And over here we've got 3 different eras actually. We've got some 70s public housing. We've got some, relatively modern development here. There used to be something old here that was demolished, but now we've got this kind of generic looking modern apartments. And then back here we've got some of the original row houses again. So we really got a great mix going on. And I know they're kind of smashed or meshed together here, but I think it creates a really cool vibe to have many different types of row houses kind of mixed together here, and you've got these really cozy streets here, which I think I'm gonna detail these with intersection marking tool and planters and trees to just really have a really, just have a special atmosphere for these small streets. So even though you're really in the big city, then we get these small areas that feel very distinct and very unique. That really adds character, and it adds a sense of scale to Port Douglas as well, even though we have to work on a much smaller scale in City Skylines. I think I might start. I'm gonna continue developing this area now, but I think I might start with, I might try to remove this and see if I can find a better fit. I don't know. I'm just not a massive fan. I think this slot is 3x2. So I could try to find something that this is the one we had before. I might go with something like this. But yeah, we'll see. I'll continue developing this area now. Cool. So what I've done now is I've made an easy intersection marking tool template that I can copy paste around. And I've got two variations. I've got this one where I have an easy filler for a segment, and I've got this one where I don't have a filler. But some of the wider cars almost take up a bit too much space. So one thing I could do is use the lane controller mod to just slightly adjust this, maybe just by 2, because then you'll have the cars they maybe by 1 even, then they park just a bit on the curve. Oh my god, the game crashed. Oh boy, I'll be back in just a second. Alright, so we're back after the crash to desktop, and that's why things look a bit differently, I guess. So I hadn't saved a bunch of the stuff. So yeah, this little area here is obviously a little different than it used to look, and the detailing around this 70s public housing, as you guys can see, is also very different. It's a lot more green and lush. But I've kind of went with the same intersection marking tool detailing of these tiny roads here with lots of planters and some small trees. So this is like a recent development project from the city in an attempt to introduce even more green space. So these trees aren't as big yet. They won't become massive, but they're still young trees. But yeah, quite a bummer to have a crash to desktop. That means that this episode has definitely been the one with the biggest production issues, from the tons of footage lost yesterday and now to the crash to desktop. I'm gonna save every 5 minutes or something now because I'm getting a bit anxious. I don't know if the lane controller mod I was using when it crashed caused the crash. I'm no expert in that, so I can't say. But yeah, I'll be a little careful now because that is certainly giving me some nerves for this series with all these issues. I added an old pub here, which I think is kind of cool. The land usage isn't absolutely optimized, but I guess that makes okay sense because it's a really old pub. So yeah, it's still going strong. No one has bought it to redevelop it yet. But I think I'm gonna continue with the development, and I think I'm gonna try and get some stuff done here, and we'll see if we're gonna revamp it in the future. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna place here, but for now I think I'm just gonna place like an open square with some kind of park. As usual, we're gonna add a visible park path, which we're then gonna upgrade to an invisible park path. So that, yeah, we're adding the visible first because it's obviously easier to correct that and make sure it leads to all the right places. For instance, here I want to move this so that you walk through here. And I need to deselect some stuff here with move it so that I can just grab the node that I want. There you go. Just aligning this so that it's just how I want it. And then I actually also want, this is gonna be really tricky because of the snapping, which I'll have to just disable, I guess. I would like to also have people walking in here. So this is definitely gonna be tricky to get right. But we're gonna try. Just this node. What is this node doing? I'm not really sure. But yeah, it always gets a bit funky when you're working with such a tight space. I think we're gonna go ahead with the look we've got now. Then we're gonna grab our invisible path. And we'll upgrade, and that's where the magic happens. So I'm just gonna pick the smallest one I have, which is this one, and then upgrade all this. And I might have a bit of an issue due to distance being too small. So I'll have to see if I can correct that. Nah, there's just too little distance between the nodes here, so I'm gonna have to delete at least one. And I think here I can sort of adjust it and upgrade this segment, and that should work all right. And then I can align them. And I think that was the issue over here as well. I think now I'm just gonna draw this out manually. And adjust this node. There you go. Then I'm gonna use this people park spawner to create a reason for people to actually visit and hang out around these areas. And it's actually a building that I can pick and move around. I think I'm gonna do that. Add some activity to this place. And I can see there's a small segment here that we're also gonna have to upgrade. If we can move this node, we can upgrade and then move it back. Perfect. Then we're gonna let the park populate with people now, I guess. Alright guys, I think that sort of wraps up this episode, otherwise it's just gonna turn out excessively long, and I'm also really quickly running out of time currently. Wow, this has been a tough one due to all the technical issues. Yeah, I hope I didn't bore you guys too much with it, but you know, I like to share, you know, the journey and also some of the issues that may come. But yeah, I didn't expect to have so many, I guess you could say, content creation issues with this episode. I guess it also has limited sort of what I would like to have done, but I guess that, you know, in the end, we did actually get a really great start on brick will, which is certainly my lack of imagination. So as always, I know some of you guys love coming up with names and cool backstories. I've sort of already, I guess, mentioned the backstory for this area. You know, former working class, a really row house heavy area that has been, you know, some has been redeveloped in the 70s, some redevelopments are more modern. So we have this really fun mix, and we've got these really old tiny streets back here. And I feel we really managed to create a fantastic vibe. So, I mean, it's been a theme for a couple episodes now that I ask you guys, if you could live anywhere in Coniferia, where would you live? I think, you know, living in like a row house back here would actually be super cozy as well. I think this area turned out really nice. But yeah, as always, if you guys got a suggestion for this part of Brickville, then please come with a name. That would be awesome. And yeah, there's still so much to do. I would have loved to spend some time actually detailing up this a new tram line, and adding some detailed stops and stuff. But I guess for now we're just gonna settle with everything we got done in this episode. We wrapped up with this park, which I think actually turned out rather cool. It's a bit of a high detail one. I quite like it, and we're already seeing, we're seeing quite a bit of activity. We got a young man here, Max Holmes. He's just contemplating life as he stands beneath this massive pine shore. I feel you, man. I feel you. He's what did it say? Uneducated child. Well, I guess that's okay. He's just a child. That's rough. Anyways, if you've stuck with me for this long, thank you so much for viewing. And if you really want to help out, give this episode a like, write a comment, and of course subscribe and enable notifications if you haven't already and want to. If you can't get enough of Coniferia, I've got a Patreon with a ton of cool stuff on, and it's $1 a month if you are interested. But other than that, see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and have a nice day or evening or whatever it is where you're from. Bye.